Hey, happy new year, everybody. Good morning. Hope you are all doing well. Welcome to 2026. I know we had a show on Friday, and I know actually many of you are actually on it, but even still, today feels like the first real work day of 2026. So we got to recognize that. So good morning, all. Hope you're here. If you're here this morning, say good morning. My name is Hammer. I am the founder of Originator Success, Grab and Go Social, and Rate Sensei. 3 products to help you to get more loans in 2026 than you did in 2025. So hope you are doing well. Remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time on the show live, where we talk about what's going on with rates and pricing. A lot to cover today. You got all the headlines for Venezuela. We'll unpack that a little bit. You've got things going into the new year. We'll talk about what that trading is. And then this week, big jobs data week. So if you're here this morning, say good morning. If you are here for the first time and you want to get a reminder, a quick text to your phone that I am going live and you don't want to miss the show. Don't depend on social media channels to tell you that we're going live. Check us out, hmmr.io/reminder, or you can use this cool QR code over here. And if you're on your iPhone, take a screenshot, go back to it later in your photos, press and hold it, and it should open the link. Anyway, go ahead and sign up and get a reminder that we are going live each morning. Also, if you're feeling kind of feisty, make sure you sign up and get our daily email lock advice to your inbox each and every weekday morning, www.ratelockadvice.com. You can also sign up for our text alerts at www.ratetextalerts.com as well. So check those out and see if that's something you would like. So let's go ahead and say hi to all the live folks here this morning, and we'll get started. Hopefully y'all had a great New Year's, and if you did, say you did. And if you didn't, well, don't tell me. I don't want to know about it. Don't ruin it for me. I'm going to pretend, right? Robert Bashirs, happy belated birthday, my friend. I know your birthday was during the holiday, and I hope you had a good birthday. Allison Foy, good morning. Ron Siegel said, today is National Whipped Cream Day. Don't worry. The question of the day is not going to be, what is your favorite way to use whipped cream? We're going to leave that one alone. So good morning, Ron Siegel, Amy Blauser, and Zane. Zane, welcome back, my friend. Got to go back to school. You look forward to going back to school? Let me know, dude. Nicole Semerad, good morning. We've got Megan Bissell, Rob Stewart, Charlie Bedita, Brandy Brickler, Mike Brown. Great to have all of you here. Mallory Fotiades, Michael Scott Love, and Tony Fitzgerald, Karen Eldridge, Angela Walters, good morning. And all right, so let me pull up the captions and let's go ahead and get started. We'll jump into all the good stuff here. We're going to start off with looking at the technicals. Let me go ahead and share my screen, show you what we got going on this morning. Let me pull up Presentify real quick, and we will show you. So quick recap of what happened last year and why this is a big deal right here. This happened. In fact, let's go ahead and zoom in at 3 months. Now, I'm going to go ahead and draw a purple line right about here, 101.28. You could actually see that level right here, okay, 101.28. And you could see that on Christmas Eve, this was on Christmas Eve right here, that we broke above that 101.28 level. Now, we'd only done that one time before, and it only lasted for a single day. Right? We had only done this one time before, and then it was gone. And we have tested this level again and again and again. These red candlesticks, they start high, but end the day on that level, right? They start down. So they've actually ended the day here, not up higher. So they were here. The green ones were right about there testing it. Red one here testing it. We were testing it. We can go back farther and farther, and we've been testing this 101.28 level. And then right before, I want to say last week, it was actually before that, it was right before the holiday, we broke above it. And I figured that we would see bonds really kind of just lose ground this morning and start to head back down towards 101.28. I figured this morning we might not see it go all the way down. It wouldn't necessarily be down 20 basis points, but I figured we would be down there. And that's not what's happening. What's happening right now, as you notice, is that we are up about 10 basis points on the day. Bonds are holding above that level, which means they have basically shaken away the ghost. This is a big deal. This is something we're going to want to watch. It opens the door for rates to improve a little bit more from here. Still not likely to see a big movement, but we do have an opportunity. Now, rate sheets are likely to be a bit better than they were on Friday. And I'm going to go ahead and just pull this over and show you guys real quick. If we take a look at using Mortgage News Daily for a reference point, you can see that we have been very, very solid right around the 6.20 mark, right? So we were at 6.21 and then 6.20 and then just a hair better for a day, which is where we should be today, a little bit better than 6.20, and then 6.20 over the holiday. Really didn't move much. Now, what's funny is even though mortgage-backed securities, mortgage bonds are actually at their best levels that we have seen, right? They're up here above 101.28. When we look at rates and pricing, there's actually 2 times that we saw better rate sheets, even though mortgage bonds were not better. And that was right before each of the Fed meetings on 9/16 and on October 28th. And that was down to 6.13. Here's 6.19, which is kind of where we are now. And you can see that right about here. We've been at this right around this level here, but we had these 2 little opportunities when bonds were still not better than they are now, but rate sheets were. So it shows you that sometimes things get a little ahead of themselves, but not likely to see that much there. As far as today goes, reprice risk on the day is low. I want to point out to you, we want to keep an eye on this 10-year treasury yield. It's currently at 4.17. Remember, it's so far above 4, it's not even funny. We are not in the 3s. The 3s would signal better rates. We're nowhere near the 3s. We've been lower than this many, many times. Look at where we were in October. Look at where we were even in December. Look at how high that 10-year treasury yield is now. This is not pointing to rate sheets continuing to improve. And it shows that we're seeing a little bit of a split. But we're here now. So you know what, Ron, you may be right on that one. Ron said he's watching the 5.5 because there's double the volume in that versus the 5.0. I've been watching the 5.5 for continuity, but a lot of times, so let's take a look, right? So the 5.5 is currently up 8 basis points. And if we look at the 5.0, and that's the one that Mortgage MBS Live is also referencing. But that's also up 8 basis points. So we could look at it. You'll see a little bit of a different pattern, but instead of what you really see that's different here is, I'll put this on 6 months, is that 101.28 level is not as big of a deal. When we look at the 5-year versus the 5.5, you see that it's actually been above that level quite a bit right here. So it does give us a little bit of a different vibe as far as where bonds belong compared to the 5.0 being so far above that. Now, what does that also tell us? Well, if traders are trading into a lower priced coupon and it's getting more volume, it signals that they believe rates are going to stay lower, move lower compared to if they were in that higher one. And normally you want to be whatever coupon, we're generally pricing between 3/4 and 1.5 above it. So the 5 is a very accurate coupon because that would be 5.75 to 6.25. Basically is kind of where you'd be running to, maybe even 6.5 if you want to say 1.5 above it, but usually from 3/4 of a point to 1.25 above it. So we would be right there. And you know what, maybe I'll use this opportunity for the new year and I too will move over to the 5.0. So we'll take a look there. Now that does tell us a little bit of a different story if we go ahead and look at where the high points are when you're looking at the technicals. But it's not a huge one. Hello, Ms. Melanie Hoffman. How are you? For all of y'all that don't know, Melanie is the duo of real estate agents that that handle all of my real estate and are helping my son buy a house this week. So who else we got? Rob Stewart. So I'm going to come back and talk about the Venezuela thing. Let's go ahead and hit that one in a minute. Ron said the 5.5 will have more volatility since it is lower volume compared to the 5.0 in theory, but we really haven't seen much of a difference. Again, I'm going to argue that there's too much made out of that, Ron. Again, 5.0 being at up 5 basis points, the 5.5 being up 7 basis points. You're not generally going to see them with a huge variation. And the volatility that we see is a few basis points. We're not seeing big swings or anything that would affect decision making. So, but I will, for the sake of the idea that things are getting into a better place, I'll move to the 5.0 for now. We'll track that. We'll go ahead and start looking at that 5.0 versus 5.5. I'm going to come back to the Venezuela question. We'll hit that one in a minute. So taking a look here, I just want to make sure we got everything. Once again, reprice risk on the day is low. It's not likely that we see things move, but we definitely want to pay attention to the fact that the 10-year has not really improved much. In fact, it's gotten worse all of the last few days. And it's just today that it's kind of leveled, but it hasn't driven down. And we're going to come back to that to talk about that with the Venezuela question for Rob Stewart that he asked. So as far as today's calendar and what's on the economic calendar, at 10 o'clock, we have the ISM manufacturing data that's going to come out at 10 a.m. We may see a small movement to bonds because of that, but it won't be enough to give us anything that we have to worry about or kind of be ready for or change our the way that we're doing anything. So not really worried about the move that's coming at 10 a.m. with that data. It's nothing that we have to really worry about there. So don't worry about that. However, for the week, definitely a lot going on this week. It's a big jobs data week. We've got JOLTS data and ADP coming out on Wednesday. Tomorrow is going to be a very quiet day. There's really not much going on. There's a 3-year Treasury auction tomorrow afternoon on Tuesday. Wednesday and Tuesday, I think we also get the weekly ADP one now that comes out. So I think that should come out on Tuesday morning as well. Wednesday, we get the regular full monthly ADP report, along with the JOLTS data, which I think will get a little more attention, and the ISM non-manufacturing data that'll come out. So the JOLTS data comes out early. The ADP data comes out early. I'm sorry, JOLTS data comes out at 10. ADP comes out at 8:30 or 8:15, and the ISM data will come out at 10. So we'll see some moves there. Treasury auctions, we got the 3-year on Tuesday. We got the 10-year on Wednesday, the 30-year on Thursday. But the big thing, of course, is BLS jobs data, 8:30 a.m. on Friday, and then 10 a.m. consumer sentiment on Friday. So the BLS jobs data, the first one we kind of settle back in rolling on there. Ron's pointed out something on technical support for the 5.0, so we'll take a look. We have 2 levels of support dating back to December 18th on the 5. All the technicals will be meaningless once data starts being released later in the week. I agree. I think that the technicals will definitely take a back seat. However, when it comes to those technicals and where things are going there, a few things to pay attention to. The Fed outlook has not changed and is not likely to change even when we get that jobs data, but we will see because, it's possible. Right now, markets are really just not giving any idea that we're going to see any reason at all to see a Fed rate cut in January. In fact, when you go to the next meeting, which would be about 6 weeks from that in March, you see a little bit more. It's about a 40%, but still basically leaning on the idea that it'll be the same there. Once we get to April, you see a little bit of a higher expectation, but really there's not a lot of a move until you start to see the idea that Powell is out. So right now we're at 3.5. And this is where you see, Powell will be gone in May. So the June meeting is when you really see that there's an idea that we could see another Fed rate cut. Still way too far out. So much could change on that. But that's what markets are currently pricing in on that. And the outlook for rates don't appear to be likely to move. Oh, no, that was not the outlook that I wanted. What happened whenever I saved it? All right, well, the rate outlook, let me just go ahead and here, we'll just delete that part and save it. All right, so the rate outlook, it's not likely that we're going to see rate sheets that are going to improve tremendously. However, we could see improvement by the end of the week. There's more of an open door than there was before. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the headlines. Rob Stewart asked Venezuela. that is Venezuela is what is all over the headlines right now. Why are these not going away? Okay, there we go, because I was hitting the wrong button. So, you look at the Wall Street Journal, and all the headlines are Venezuela. You look at the Bloomberg, all the headlines are Venezuela. I'm not going to get into too deep on this. The political reasons, the geopolitical reasons, the money reasons. It's about oil. It's about oil and money and power. It's the same thing. If we happen to help the country while we're kind of taking advantage of it, that's probably an extra bonus. Should we be doing it? I'm not going to sit there and stand on a soapbox and say we should not. And this does give a tremendous amount of power to the U.S. because of oil. I mean, Venezuela has the largest reserves of oil. It is pretty sick. And it means that when the U.S. is negotiating with Russia over the Ukraine deal, a lot of what Trump does still benefits the U.S. Again, not forming judgment. Some people would be like, that's terrible. Some people would be like, it's fantastic. My opinion on it doesn't matter at all. But the idea is that these were parts of negotiations where Russia said, well, we'll do this with oil or that with oil. We've taken power away. This does affect a lot of geopolitical issues, but it's not having any effect on bonds. I mean, you take a look, it's not a war. It's not creating a war. Venezuela has never been a threat to the US. This doesn't get rid of a threat. This doesn't create a threat. There's nothing here. I mean, when you see on Friday, the 10-year was at 4.18, 4.19, and today it's at 4.17. Right. So yes, mortgage-backed securities have improved a little bit. We're up a whopping 5 basis points, but none of this improvement can really be attributed to what's going on in Venezuela. That is not having any effect on what we've got going on in our markets. Now, arguably, access to oil and driving down oil prices is good for the economy. It's good to keep inflation down, which could help bonds, because if we see inflation go down, that could help bonds. But I don't think that oil prices back in 14, 15, 16, oil prices were some of the biggest variables in mortgage rates. It was having a huge effect on mortgage pricing. Every day as oil went, so went mortgage rates. And that's not the case anymore. It's not the case right now. It doesn't have really much to do with anything. So the energy idea, it's not likely that, although this is going to continue to play out, it's not likely that we can count on it to, help support bonds continuing to improve, help rate sheets to improve. Anything that anyone tells you that this is really connected, they're either smarter than me or they're just making it up. I mean, they're seeing something that's not there. And I know it's not, I shouldn't say the quiet part out loud, but I would think it's the second part, because I'm not seeing anything that really had anything. If markets had a big reaction, it'd be a different story. But I mean, come on, the 10-year moved a basis point. That's really, call it 2. It's not a big deal, right? It's nothing that anything is going on there. So keep that in mind. Really not anything. As far as other headlines, it'll come down to the jobs data and, economic strength and support as we get through the rest of the week. But that's about it. I mean, there's really the geopolitical stuff, everything that's going on here. It's not really a big issue, and it's not having much of an effect on there. Melanie Troutman, good morning. Eric McDonald, good to see you. Mike Tebow, great to have you here. So Ron pointed out the 2 levels of support on the 5-year are right here. The 25 and 50-day moving averages, giving some technical support here. But I mean, I think that we have an opportunity to see things. So as far as what I would do with rate sheets and stuff, was in a lock stance all last week. I really did think that we were going to see bonds lose ground as we headed into this week. I really did. It has not happened. And I don't regret the idea of locking. Look at rate sheets. What would you regret locking on these rate sheets? We're right there. We're not really, even today being, 3 or 4 basis points, it doesn't change where we were over the last few days, but it does change the outlook for now. and that's what we're adjusting to. So I would cautiously float. We can open the door now that the holidays are over, traders are back to work. We're seeing where things settle in. We can open the door to floating. It doesn't mean that I think rates are necessarily going to improve much from here, but there is some opportunity. We do have the ability to see that oil come into play with inflation data, and the inflation outlook more than the data. I mean, the data will be what it's going to be, but the outlook really is for all this stuff here. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, let me know if you guys have any other questions, and I will be glad to answer them. Ron said the event in Venezuela is not about oil. It is averting World War III. Venezuela and China were poised to invade Guyana, and that is a big deal. Ron, you are probably, well, not even probably, but I want to say you are definitely much more educated on the topic than I am. I know this happened over the weekend. However, my personal philosophy, it didn't affect I have my 3-foot rule. It didn't affect what's happening within 3 feet of me. I did not do any reading on it. I was not interested on it. I didn't want to get sucked into it or drawn on it. So I really haven't formed an opinion on anything. I haven't really done a lot of reading. I know that Ron does. So I will say that everybody should kind of pay attention to that. I'm still going to lean to that it is about oil, and oil will play a big part of it. If it wasn't the reason, it will continue to play a big part of it. It is what it is. We are the United States. The people that are in power and make decisions based on, improving the financial and influence position of themselves in the country. So I do think that it'll definitely be. Ben King said he's not convinced it's about oil. Elon doesn't meet with Trump on account of captured oil. I think it's more about the accusations that Venezuela has interfered with our elections and China's global positioning towards the U.S. Yeah, I definitely think that all those things play a role. Have not done any research, but hearing that from you guys, I will definitely be more open to listening on that and kind of reading into that a little bit. But and also, I will say, if it was about oil, we would see more of a market reaction. Markets aren't really reacting that it's about oil either, but oil will definitely play a role in this. I mean, it's oil, it's Venezuela. The Hammer Show, and later, and more importantly, the Ron Siegel radio show will be the first place to learn about this unless you subscribe to paid news services. Yeah, and more so you, Ron, than me. I mean, again, I'm really focused on how it affects mortgage rates and pricing, and it's not going to right now, and it may play more of a role later on, but it's not playing a role right now. So that's why I'm not going super deep on it. But definitely, Ron, Ron Siegel radio, guys, Google it, listen to Ron's show later. Maybe I will listen to Ron's show later and see about what Ron, what your opinion is on it. I'd like to hear your feedback. So John Melnick, good morning. All right, everybody. Well, again, we are in a pretty good spot as far as rates and pricing. Let's hold on to it. Let's have a great day. Tomorrow, we'll see what happens. Let you know if we've seen a reversal. I think reprice risk on the day is low, but we do want to watch and see if things do turn around and go negative. That would be bad for us. We want to see if that happens, and we'll see where tomorrow brings us. So thank you again for joining me. Welcome back to work. I hope you guys are all ready to have a fantastic 2026. I know I am. So hopefully we get it off to a good start. Take care, everybody. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.